Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. JTA seeks clarification on preferential treatment remark for vaccinated teachers. Prime Minister says tighter COVID-19 measures are coming. I'm Anthony Lugg. Here are the details. Some teachers are up in arms this afternoon following an announcement by Prime Minister Andrew Holness last evening regarding how teachers who are vaccinated will be treated compared to others. O'Shane Masters has that announcement and the reaction from the Jamaica Teachers Association.
Preferential treatment may have to be given to teachers who are vaccinated. That declaration from Prime Minister Andrew Holness at the Covid-19 press briefing Monday evening. It comes as there has not been a huge take-up of the vaccine by teachers.
The government's first line of strategic engagement with the critical stakeholders, the teachers, will be to appeal to them. We are not going to go down the route of making anything mandatory, but at the same time, I think we would have to consider ensuring that teachers who are vaccinated and who turn up to work, that they are treated in some preferential way.
But that is not going down well with the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA. Outgoing President Jasper Gabriel says clarification is needed.
To be quite frank, this has sparked a lot of discussions and concerns immediately across the teaching profession. And so we definitely look forward to those discussions that the Prime Minister mentioned, because we are seeking for clarity as to, for example, what does it mean by preferential treatment. So to give any impression or indication as if our professionals are going to be coerced in taking the vaccine when it is still not mandatory is something that we need to get some clarity on.
He says over 8,000 teachers have already been vaccinated across the island. He says the issue is that the country does not have vaccines on hand to carry out the process, a point which was agreed to by Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton last evening. However, vaccines are coming.
Based on our expectations, and we are increasingly confident that those expectations will be realized, we expect approximately 1.4 million doses of vaccines between now and the end of September. And we are fairly confident that the first shipment will arrive within the next week and a half or so, which will be about 168,000.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
In the meantime, at least one public health specialist says while the new COVID-19 measures are timely, tighter restrictions should have been implemented in other areas. Professor Winston Davidson was reacting to the new measures outlined by Prime Minister Andrew Holness last evening. Shamela Pullen has that angle.
On Monday, the government outlined tighter restrictions to control the spread of COVID-19. Over the last few days, the country has been seeing a steady increase in new cases since the relaxation of the measures a few weeks ago. Public health specialist Professor Winston Davidson says despite the fact that the increase in cases could have been avoided if the government had not gone against public health advice, he's in support of the new measures for the most part.
We could not allow the situation to continue as it has trended over the past few weeks. There was no doubt that we were about to see another explosive community spread of the pandemic in Jamaica. We know what it is that we need to do to curtail the spread.
But Professor Davidson thinks the government could have tightened the restrictions some more, especially in reducing large gatherings.
100 persons, 60 persons, and the reduction in terms of percentage, I think, would have been more. Because remember, it is the cluster of cases. It is the persons who are engaged in events which are hard to manage, especially the entertainment events that are hard to manage. Once you say that you are having an event it is very, very difficult to manage that event when a lot of people turn out. And this is where you have the explosion of the epidemic.
Professor Davidson is calling for Jamaicans to adhere to the COVID-19 measures and take the vaccines when they come.
When the vaccine comes between now and September, we should all make an effort to become vaccinated, especially those persons who are most vulnerable, especially those persons with chronic non-communicable diseases, those with hypertension, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and of course, other diseases like chronic obstructive airway disease.
Shimela Pulen, TVJ News.
And the Prime Minister says stricter COVID restrictions, which take effect today, are just a precursor to even tighter measures to come in another 2 weeks. The government last evening announced that the curfews from Monday to Saturday would move from 11 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock. The curfews will begin at 3 o'clock in the afternoons on Sundays and public holidays. However, Mr. Holness said those measures are just a start.
Party promoters have already started to adjust the times for their events following the tightening of the COVID-19 curfew. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced an 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew effective Tuesday, July 27, from the previous 11 p.m. start time. But there was no mention on a ban on entertainment events, giving the industry the green light to continue partying.
Those events would continue. It depends as to whether or not they meet the curfew hours that are in place. So some event holders may very well have to make decisions about whether or not they hold those events. So what we have done is to bring forward some of the measures that we had planned to put in right after the independence period because of how fast the upturn in numbers was taking place.
One of the largest and most anticipated event, Dream Weekend, which is hosted in Negril, Westmoreland and was postponed in 2020 due to the pandemic, has been approved by the government. The promoters took to their Twitter page to inform the public of time changes. The event, which is slated for August 5 to 8, features a series of parties. But according to some health experts, events like these may be super spreaders of the virus, especially with the target audience mainly from the United States. Almost 100% of the new cases recorded there are from the more contagious Delta variant. While acknowledging the risk, the Prime Minister says that the government is giving investors 2 weeks to complete their business.
It's not always easy to just do a 180 turn. You have to give notice of intention. So I have been giving notice for the past 2 weeks that we're likely to come with some tighter measures. Today is the clearest indication that tighter measures are coming.
Smaller events can have 100 people or 50% of the venue's capacity. In the meantime, the public is being urged to be more responsible, even as new measures are expected to be announced come August 11. Cody-Ann Barrett, TVJ News.
And we apologize for that insert. We go now to Prime Minister Andrew Holness telling the country that tighter restrictions are coming.
So these are really preliminary measures. Come the 11th, we will have to take even tighter measures to ensure that we do not see a massive spike. As the Minister pointed out, that there is a lag. So what we are seeing now, in 2 weeks' time, it will probably be worse.
Mr. Holness explained that the government was making the adjustments as Jamaica is now averaging 135 new COVID-19 infections each day. He added that the reproductive rate has also gone up to 1.4.
Avoid spikes during this new wave is for every single Jamaican, every man, woman, and child, grandma, grandpa, brother, sister, to take personal responsibility, to exercise extreme care, caution, and diligence in observing the protocols.
It's time now for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Continuing the news. At least 2 coronavirus vaccine makers are expanding the size of their clinical trials for children ages 5 to 11. According to the New York Times, the Food and Drug Administration has asked Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna to include 3,000 children in the 5 to 11-year-old group to their trials. This research is not only pertinent for the U.S., but especially Jamaica, as the government pushes for face-to-face classes to continue. In responding to a question about inoculating teens, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said the ministry continues to watch research overseas along with guidance from the World Health Organization.
We are looking at the expert positions as it relates to vaccines, clinical trials, and age cohorts that qualify. As you know, currently the general rule or protocol is 18 years and older. There have been, however, trials done by certain brands, the Pfizer brand, for example, where younger age cohorts have qualified and are taking the vaccines in some jurisdictions. And indeed, we have gotten requests from some citizens, particularly those who are attending educational institutions abroad who are of the lower age cohort, below 18. And so I know that the Office of the CMO, in conjunction with our experts at the multilateral level, are looking at it.
And questions remain this afternoon about whether the government can mandate people to take the COVID-19 vaccine. The issue of mandatory vaccination was put to former president of the Jamaican Bar Association, Emil Leiber, on Smile Jamaica this morning. He said mandatory vaccination is not something new to Jamaica. However, with COVID-19, the situation is different.
I think the thing is that we have the immunization requirements in Jamaica are in respect of what I call very established diseases, very established immunization protocols, and so on. So, we have our mumps, measles, rubella, and that type of thing. The thing with COVID, I think, from the medical standpoint, which needs to influence the legal standpoint, is that it is developing. It's a developing story when it comes to both vaccines, the effect of the vaccines, as well as the effect of the disease itself. And then you have another wrinkle where this is now adult vaccination that you're speaking of, as versus infant vaccination.
Mr. Leiber says the question now is whether there will be a criminalization policy for persons who do not wish to take the vaccine. Meanwhile, 52 new COVID-19 cases were recorded in the last 24 hours from 816 tests. The country's case count now stands at 52,141. This brings the positivity rate to 16%. One new death was recorded, pushing the death toll to 1,179. Meanwhile, 145 people have been hospitalized with a respiratory illness. 23 are critically ill. There are 3,713 active cases. And it's time now for the Business Minute. Here's Cody and Barrett.
In the world of business, persons looking to open businesses are being encouraged to formalize their business in order to secure cheaper loans. Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce Audley Shaw says informality is as high as 40% in Jamaica's economy.
Is either those who are in the informal economy either have no access to credit, or where they do have some access to credit, they have to pay money at extremely high interest rates, which end up making their businesses uncompetitive.
He says access to credit is a valuable benefit for all stakeholders to be able to rebuild their financial lives. He was speaking at the recent Credit Restoration Virtual Summit. The latest forecast from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, confirmed its prediction that the global economy will expand by 6% this year. However, the economic outlook for rich countries is getting better while developing economies are falling behind. The IMF says this is due to their differing access to COVID-19 vaccines. Close to 40% of the population in advanced economies is fully vaccinated. In emerging market economies, the vaccination rate is 11%, while low-income countries lag even further behind. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
Now, for your regional and international news, here's O'Shane Masters.
The main opposition St. Lucia Labour Party, SLP, has claimed victory in the general elections held yesterday as voters rejected the Alan Chastanet administration after only a 5-year term in office. In addition, voters created history by electing 2 independent candidates to the 17-member parliament, among them former Prime Minister Stephenson King, who quit the ruling United Workers' Party UWP to contest the Castries North constituency, which he has been representing for nearly 3 decades. Haitian police have arrested the head of Jovenel Moise's security team as part of the ongoing investigation into the president's July 7 assassination. His security chief is suspected of involvement in the plot that saw Moise killed at his home in the middle of the night by armed commandos who bypassed the president's guards without firing a shot. Mr. Moise's security chief joins more than 12 suspects who have been arrested. On the international scene, 1 person is dead and 16 others injured following an explosion at an industrial park for chemicals in a western German city on Tuesday. At least 2 of the injured are in serious condition. The search is still on for 4 people. The blast caused a fire at a fuel depot at Chem Park, which is home of more than 30 companies, which includes Bayer. And that's it for your Midday Roundup. I'm Oshane Masters.
And we head now to a quick break. When we return, we'll have your Midday Sports Report. Renardo Brown is standing by. Renardo Brown.
Welcome back. It's now time for your Midday Sports. I'm Renata Brown. Cricket now. The West Indies' struggles to beat Australia in a 50-over series since 1995 continued on Monday after the Caribbean side went down by 6 wickets in the series decider to lose 2-1. The Windies batting first limped to 152 all out from 45.1 overs. Evan Lewis was the top scorer with 55 not out, while Darren Bravo made 18. Azara Joseph 15, Shea Hope 14 and Karen Pollard 11 were the only other batsmen to get to double figures. Mitchell Starc was once again outstanding with ball in hand, picking up 3 for 43. Josh Hazelwood, man of the match Ashton Agar and Adam Zampa all had 2 wickets. Now chasing 153 for victory, the Aussies romped home, losing only 4 wickets on the back of an even 51 from Matthew Wade. That's an unbeaten 51. Captain Alex Carey made 35. And Jamaican's Stephanie Taylor followed up her debut 45 not out with an unbeaten 17 as the Southern Brave defeated Welsh Fire by 8 wickets in the 100 women's competition at Cardiff a short while ago. Set 101 runs to win, Taylor, along with India's Shriti Mandana 61, guided the team to victory at 112 for 2 with an unbroken 54-run third-wicket partnership. Earlier, another West Indian, Hayley Matthews, top scored with 33, as Welsh Fire posted 110 for 7 from their 100 balls. Georgia Hennessy was next best with 23 against Lauren Bell and Amanda Jade Wellington, who both had identical figures of 2 for 19 from 20 balls. And finally, there will be no home glory for Japanese tennis superstar Naomi Osaka, who suffered a surprise exit from the Olympics as Czech Marketa Vandrousova earned a straight-set win in Tokyo. Osaka has been one of the faces of the Games in the Japanese capital and had the honor of lighting the Olympic cauldron in last week's opening ceremony. But the 4-time Grand Slam champion could not back that up by winning a medal, losing 6-1, 6-4 to the world number 42 in the 3rd round. And that's it for your Midday Sports. I'm Renardo Brown. Anthony, it's back to you.
Thank you, Renardo. Renardo, just before we go, I understand some big events coming up this week. Talk to us about that.
Of course, track and field starts this week. It starts Thursday night Jamaica time. Boxing set to come up. Ricardo Brown goes in the men's heavyweight. That's later tonight. Keenan Doles to contest the 200-meter individual event. So those are the big events coming up this week.
And what are you looking forward to the most?
Track and field, of course. The women's 100 meters and also the women's 200 meters should be interesting. 3 Jamaicans likely to medal. Let's see what happens.
All right, thank you very much. That's where we leave you this afternoon. That's the Midday News. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.